welcome to Tap Rhythm and Roll. Welcome to Opera North. Thank you for being here.
One day I looked up and there you were, like a simple question, looking for an answer. Now I am a whale, listening to some inner call, swimming blindly to throw myself upon your shore. What if I don't find you when I have landed? Would you leave me here to die on your shore stranded? Think I know why the dog howls at the moon. I think I know why the dog howls at the moon. I say, Dela, 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 when I'm with you. Dela, Sondela, Mama Sondela, I burn for you. A blind bird sings inside the cage, that is my heart. The image of your face comes to me when I'm alone in the dark. If I could give a shape to this ache that I have for you, if I could find the voice that says the words that capture you. I think I know. I think I know, I think I know, I think I know, I think I know why the dog howls at the moon. I think I know why the dog howls at the moon. I say, Dela, Dela, Minanga Dela, when I'm with you. Dela, Sunday. Mama Sondela, I burn for you.
Oh, then I did. And then I said, and then I said, and then I said, then, and then I said, that's it.
In New York City, there was a club called the Hoofers Club. And it was really a room in a pool room. But the pool room had a restaurant and everything and it stayed open 24 hours a day. And the fellow who owned the pool room liked tap dancing so much until he put aside a room in the back of the pool room, and 24 hours a day, any hour of the day or night, you would find somebody in that room dancing. And all of the dancers would congregate, and like I'd see Bubbles and I'd get some kind of thought about something, or Bubbles would see Eddie Rector and he'd get some kind of thought.
A little introductory thing. Bill Robinson was the mayor of Harlem. Consequently, you got this little speech going. The mayor of Harlem was a dancing man who ruled his people with a shoe. When he put on his boots, old trouble would scoot. To People's Choice, a Bojangles to you. No speech making, just the swing of a band and the ring of a tap so true. It was more than enough when he strutted his stuff. To People's Choice, a Bojangles to you. His motto of office was on to the stage, and he promised to entertain. He was a modern Caesar, a capering sage. There was nothing his feet couldn't explain. To a swing-swayed public, he was really grand. Knew just what to do. Opposition no chance when he started to dance. To People's Choice, a Bojangles to you.
So many air outside.
To classes now to learn tap because they realize the necessity of it. It's a matter of mathematics, and it's a matter of ambition, and it's a matter of practice. And it's like anything else. If you're determined to do it, of course, some are going to do it better than others. Like in anything else, again, it's just a matter of applying yourself to it. Have control of your feet, have control of your arms, etc., but let your body just be free and easy, because tap is a dance that is a free, natural, easy form of dancing.
listening to some inner call, swimming blindly to throw myself upon your shore. What if I don't find you when I have landed? Would you leave me here to die on the shore stranded? Think I know why the doghouse at the moon. I think I know why the doghouse at the moon. I say, dead, dead, I'm in a dead.
bop. Sugar, digga, 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 bop. Try that. Sugar, digga, 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 bop. Sugar, digga, 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 bop. Sugar, digga, 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 bop. I'm gonna say it, you say it. Sugar, digga, bop. Sugar, digga, digga, bop. Sugar, digga, bop. Sugar, digga, bop. All right. Fierce.
All right, gentlemen, people. Now the hard part. Are you ready? Yes. Watch carefully. You're gonna do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's do it. Here we go. 1, and we're going up, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, do it again. We're gonna do it 4. That's the third time. Hey, hey, hey. Let's lose. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You're awesome.
Nice contrast. Mine is gonna be super easy. Super easy. Are you ready? Thank you. Got this. I have faith in you. We will help. We will help. Yeah. Yeah. Now, those last 2 notes are real. Yes. Yes, you're all higher. Higher.
Alright. Should we try it all together first before we add some delicious accompaniment? One layer at a time. You're going to start, and then you just add on with each. Are you ready, my friends? How did you go? All right, here we go. 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, so we have a little. Yes. Here we go, everybody. Just watch us. It's been going on for a long time. Stand ready.
Like a simple question, looking for an answer. Now I am
So now we're going to have the educational portion of the performance. I'm going to hand the mic to each of the dancers if they would mind talking a little bit about their journey, right, as a tap dancer and how we all kind of got here, and then we're going to talk a little bit about our process and the history of tap dancing, and then we're going to open it up for questions.
I have to go first. Hi. Ooh, that's loud. My name is Lynn Schwab. I am a tap dancer, obviously. Thank you. I live in New York, and I teach and perform in New York and all around the world. I've been lucky enough to do a lot of workshops and festivals and perform with a lot of different kinds of companies, including this one. So what else do I need to tell them? That's it.
I'm going to tell you that she taught me how to tap dance. I'll leave it at that. Yes, you did.
Can I say that too, actually? Hi, I'm Becca. I live in New York City. I've been tapping, I don't know how many years now, I can't count, but it's been a wonderful ride. And I really enjoy making music with my feet and my body and my soul, and it infiltrates everything that I do musically, both on and off the stage. So, yeah, with that.
I'm Darren. I grew up in Washington State, but I've been a New Yorker for 33 years. Since I was 3. Now, actually, this is my 44th year dancing and my 36th year teaching. And I've been fortunate to do company work in ballet, tap, and jazz. And I've had the privilege of working with great guys like Warren, and I've been able to tour the world. And I'm thrilled that I got to be part of this. You know, when you're a grown up, it's nice to be able to come back and still dance with the kids.
Hello, everybody. I am from New London, New Hampshire. That's right. I grew up with the New London Barn Playhouse, right? I'm going to be going there to direct and choreograph Hairspray this summer, so if y'all want to come down and see that show, fabulous. I also did the Kearsarge Arts Theater, which was in North Sutton, New Hampshire, my whole life. Yay! With Trish Lindbergh, yes. And that's where I got my love. My mom was also a dancer, so she was obsessed with Gene Kelly. So she made me obsessed with Gene Kelly, and she would be doing laundry, and she'd show me a step or two, and it just gave me this big drive to want to go to New York City, and all my dreams came true at age 25 when I was in the Broadway production of 42nd Street. So tap dancing has been in every show I've done since I've graduated, and I just continue to learn more and more about the art form. I'm also a teacher. I'll be going to teach at the University of Cincinnati in the fall.
My name is Warren Curtis. I'm the artistic director of Measuring Time Dance Collective. I'm from South Carolina. My mom and my sister are in the house, as well as my lovely partner Stephanie. Where I grew up, we didn't really have a lot of dance training available, but what we did have, we had a really, really wonderful drama theater program in the school. We had a wonderful teacher, Diane Lee, who went around to every school in the district, and a lot of us ended up going to New York or LA, and we're kind of working in the arts in some way, and I keep trying to think about what exactly did she do? And I think that she just allowed us to be creative. Or, if you wanted to write something, she said, here's the keys to the theater. Make sure you have to sell the tickets, you have to sell the programs. So I always kind of knew that's what I wanted to do. I had some very, very basic tap training. I knew some, what we call, sometimes we call it show tap or musical theater style tap, where we do certain steps that are standardized. So then I came to New York, and I thought, okay, I was pretty good where I was in South Carolina. I'm going to go take a class at Steps on Broadway, which is a big professional studio. The first dance class I ever took, I was like, I'm not like an intermediate, but I'm probably a little bit higher than a beginner. And I look on the schedule, and Lynn Schwab taught an advanced beginner class. I was like, I'm going to be fine in that. So I go into it, and what everybody is doing here is something that we call, a lot of people call it different things, but we call it rhythm tap, which means it's an expression of music. It's sounds that you make to express what you're feeling and to express the rhythm. And a lot of it is not, there are some standardized steps, but a lot of it is not standardized. It's like rhythmic patterns. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna nail this advanced beginner class. I had no idea what I was doing. I could not keep up with anything. And she really started my journey as a tap dancer to say, oh my God, I really need to learn more about this. I just happened to encounter another teacher named Charlie Goddard, who Darren studied with, and I believe Josh also studied with. Charlie has taught generations of dancers. He finally retired from teaching when he was 80 years old. And he was like, well, I guess maybe I should probably, stop now. But that was really my journey, and I think a lot of times as performing artists, especially in the theater, we can get so focused on trying to do what somebody else wants us to do, to get the job, that we kind of leave out what's my own creativity. So to me, tap dancing is where I feel like the most authentic as a dancer. I mean, I do a lot of other forms of dance, but tap dancing just feels like home to me. So I wanted to, it's my mission. I teach as well. I teach kids, I teach adults, and it's always my mission to teach them like the truth of each art form, because I think that it's not enough that we just practice it. We need to understand where it came from and how it came to be. Tap dancing is commonly referred to as an American art form. What that actually means is that enslaved people brought this culture with them from I'm gonna say West Africa. There's a lot of countries that make up West Africa. I'm not gonna say the countries, because the people from there would say that the country is like the colonial construct, right? So I don't identify, I'm not Senegalese, that's something this country, said that it was. But what they had, and what a lot of indigenous people around the world have, is something called drum culture, where you're beating a drum, you're making a rhythm, and it means things. It's a way of communicating. It's a way of passing down your stories, and they brought this culture with them to the colonies. In 1739, there was a big revolt, and as a consequence, the colonial government passed something called the 1740 Act. And that was, to me, I think that's kind of the jumping off point, because what that did, among a lot of other things, is it made it illegal for enslaved people to own property, including musical instruments. And the reason for that was, the colonists said, we don't want them to be able to communicate in a way that we don't understand and organize. And what I just think is the most beautiful story is they just did it anyway, like with their feet, and they just kept doing this. Even people that were born into this circumstance learned their history, and they kept on, and they kept on, and they kept on, and they kept on. That's happened around the world. In South America, the same kind of thing happened, but it turned into a dance form called capoeira. It happens all over the place. Flash forward to the year 1840, Charles Dickens, everybody knows Charles Dickens, right? He was taking a tour of New York City, and he happened to visit a neighborhood called the Five Points District, which is now like Chinatown, a little bit of the financial district. But at the time, it was where a lot of immigrants ended up because it was cheap to live there, and there are many reasons for that. But there was a young man there named William Henry Lane. And when Charles Dickens first saw this young man dance, he was about, we think, 14 years old. He was a black man. His grandfather had been enslaved and had passed down the tradition of what we call patting juba, which is a rhythmic call and response. The word juba comes from the word djembe, which was the drum. So we have the djembe drum, and then we have juba. Charles Dickens was so impressed by this dancing that he wrote about it. And then we have come to know William Henry Lane as the first person that we can name as a tap dancer. Certainly not the first tap dancer, but it's the first person that we know his name. He performed under the name Master Juba. He was promoted by P.T. Barnum. If we're familiar with Barnum and Bailey Circus, P.T. Barnum promoted him, and he arranged a bunch of what they call challenge dances, which is like a competition, with an Irish dancer named John Diamond. William Henry Lane won all but one out of 50, meaning challenge dancing, is like you trade and you do steps like Lynn and Becca did in their dance. So he became famous in the United States. He performed in Europe. And I'm going to leave it there because some of you have to look at William Henry Lane when you get home, and that's going to lead you to a lot of very interesting things, I think. Then in the early 20th century, jazz music and tap dancing kind of coincided together as an improvisational form of music. And that's when we really got, I think, the beginnings of rhythm tap. And then it's just been on and on and on from there. But I think it's important that when we're doing a step, we understand that it means something, and it's not just, oh, we didn't just pull it out of the air. People started doing this, and they started doing it for a very, very specific reason. My mission in forming this company was to just bring tap dancing out, and I just want people to want to go see live performing arts. You know, I want the arts to be accessible. If you're saying, hey, I've been meaning to learn how to play the guitar, pick it up, play the guitar. If you're like, you know what, I'm just going to try to write a poem, or if you're taking music lessons, don't just do what's on the page, like try to write something. You know what I mean? And did I cover everything? I think, yeah. I'm going to talk just a little bit about each of these people. First of all, I want you to know, this is going to blow your mind. They had 2 days of rehearsal. Wait a minute. Wait, that's not it. That's not it. Each person had 2 days of rehearsal. They had 1 day altogether. That's pretty amazing, right? That's pretty amazing, yeah? So now I'm going to open up, just raise your hand if you have questions, if you're interested in something. How does this work? I want to learn more about tap dancing. Don't be shy. Yes, ma'am? She can project. Yes.
I can project. I'm
Yeah.
a teacher. I wish you had done all this before, so that we'd be full here. Like, and you had workshops. Next time you come back, workshops, promoted with the kids.
Actually, if I can comment on that, this is our very first performance, and Evans Hale was kind enough to offer. Yeah, the mission of the company. Yeah. The mission of the company is actually to present a performance, and then when we get going, we're going to conduct workshops in community centers and dance studios. We want to do the performance first because I think it's more, because I teach kids, and I think it's always more inspiring for them to really see something done very well, and then to say, oh, I want to learn how to do that.
No offense, people, but this is the what's the guy? This is the team telling you. So we want what's the guy's Kohler?
Savion Glover? Savion Glover?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you want young people to come. You want young people to be your idol.
Go tell people. Go tell people. Spread the word. Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else? Who's the next person? Okay. Do you want the microphone?
Quite a few years ago, a program came to Dartmouth that was touring, and it was called Tap versus Hip Hop. It was a really fun performance, and I forget who led it. But watching tonight, I thought of that because I actually have a son who's well known as a break dancer, and I feel like that I'm curious about how you view the evolution of these, like tap, hip hop, breakdancing. How did they, since they all seem to represent pieces of the culture, how do you see it fits together?
I think that you really hit something there, because I think everything that you mentioned, it goes back to the idea that there's a reason that people start doing something, right? And I'm certainly not trained as a hip hop dancer. That's why I didn't present a hip hop. Sorry, I know you thought I was, but I'm not. But that's also like because people had a response to circumstances, right, and something to say. So that's also like that's just such a beautiful statement. It's wonderful that people get it, right? Is that you have something to say, and you're not just like making a dance, right? And I think they have very similar stories of why those two art forms began. Just one was this, long ago, and then the hip hop is more recent, but definitely as a response. So it's not just the dancing, but it's the lyrics and the music, and it's like, what are they actually saying? And that's what I think is wonderful, is to just have people understand that like when you're dancing or when you're practicing an art form, it's not just because, oh, I want to do this, it's because it's really something very meaningful to you and you have something to say. So thank you for that. Next, I'm going to go over here first. Thank you for the glow tape.
So I think when you're a performer, it is helpful to know about your audience. And you may think that up here we just know about cows. My question is, in this audience, raise your hands, how many people have ever taken tap dancing?
The shoes are slippery. Do you ever fall?
That's a great question. You said the shoes are slippery. Do you ever fall? Does anybody want to take that one?
This isn't really loud, but... I almost fell this morning. Yes, but you get right back up.
Falling is a rite of passage. Everybody falls somewhere along the line. The floor this morning was a little slippery and I almost fell, which is why I have tape on the bottom of my shoes to keep me from slipping. I don't know, that's not so interesting, but different surfaces are different. Some of them are stickier and some of them are slippy, and they also change just on the weather. Like it can be very different between the morning and the evening, or if people have been dancing on something. And so you kind of have to be ready when because it's an instrument. The floor is a drum, basically, and it's an instrument. So you have to play the instrument, and if it's slippery, you try not to fall, and you have to dance a little bit different.
Yeah, I was just going to say, earlier today, we were all on this stage practicing, and what you learn is how big and how small you have to make the movement. So today on this, we didn't go wild with our movement because we would feel like we might slip. But we do, some of us have rubber on the bottom of our feet, so that can stick us a little bit. But I think it's one of the greatest things for us is to constantly be practicing on the floor and having conversations and debates about how sticky should it be, how smooth should it be. So it's a constant question and conversation.
And also, depending on sort of your approach to the floor, because we were all trained by kind of different people, some people like surfaces different. You know, some people like it a little bit more slippery, a little bit stickier. So.
Yeah, and if I can make just a few more comments, going back to what Josh said about the shoes, is that some people really like rubber on their shoes, and some people don't put rubber on their shoes because some people want to slide, but it really depends on what you have to do. You know what I mean? Okay.
One more comment about rubber on the shoes. One of my mentors, Brenda Buffalino, who is going to be 88 and is still teaching and still traveling and still performing, she's amazing. She would not let us put rubber on the shoes because she said that it took away the sound. I don't know that it does, but she was like very, whatever Brenda says, you do.
Yeah, and I think also with rubber, and then we'll stop talking about rubber, is that I have done both things. Like Josh was in 42nd Street on Broadway, and something like that is very different than this. And when you have to do something like that, where you're traveling a lot, and you're up, were the stairs made of metal or what they were made of?
They were like a plexi.
Yeah. So that's when I would really want rubber. And I'll say one more thing about the surface of the floor. I think that the best thing to tap dance on is maple, which is what this is, because it's a hardwood, it's very durable, and it produces a really, really beautiful sound. And underneath here, there's about this much hollow space. There's strips of wood and foam, because what dancers also really need is to dance on something that we call sprung. You know what I mean? So it has some give. Yeah, and who had their hand? I'm going to go to the first row, and I'm going to go to the back row.
Music you play, do you have a playlist, or is it in the program, the music that you played?
Yes.
And who did you start with? Is it Bob Marley? Yeah.
I love the question about the music. So it's an eclectic group of artists, and it's designed to kind of mimic the evolution of time and the rhythms that we would hear in that time. So the first one that we heard is Stand By Me. Stand By Me, the song Stand By Me. Yeah, when the night has come, that one. But that's from an album called Playing for Change, which is a really interesting album because it was these people went all over the world and listened to people play music on the street, like street buskers that were covering songs like that. Yeah, there's actually a film of it, right? And there's a lot of other songs. It's called Playing for Change is the album. Then for Darren's, we call this a soft shoe style, that's The Entertainer by Scott Joplin. Scott Joplin, I think, is one of the most important composers of the late 19th and early 20th century because he started to do something called syncopation where you were playing on the offbeats. This song is actually a little bit slower than you normally hear it because I read and I learned that Scott Joplin actually thought people played his music too fast and that it was meant to be played a lot slower. So talking about that style of music, syncopation means playing like in between the beats. That's different, however, than what Becca did in her soft shoe, which was the Tennessee Waltz. That's what we call swing, which is also kind of a syncopated feel, but ragtime music doesn't swing. So I found it like very challenging to choreograph something, a soft shoe, because most of them that we know like swing or have like a triplet rhythm, but if you try to do that in a ragtime, it really goes against it. Len's song I chose for a very specific reason. It's a song called Doing the New Lowdown, and it's a song that was written in 1928, and it was introduced by Bill Robinson. You may know him as Bill Bojangles Robinson, who is also one of the most influential tap dancers of the last 100 years. And it's a song that was like so associated with him that it's kind of become an anthem to tap dancers, I think. And there's like, as Len will tell you, there's different versions of it that we learn. The talking that you heard in between scenes is a tap dancer named Honey Coles, who actually had a very well-known dance choreographed to that. And all of those kind of steps were like Bill Robinson kinds of steps. He was like very neat and organized. He was up on the toes. He kind of used the time step a lot. And I think people say that he made tap dancing classy, right? And I think also the amazing thing about him is like to understand his circumstances, because he was a black man born in 1875 in Richmond, Virginia, you know, and so certainly not the easiest life, but he became one of the highest paid entertainers of the 20th century. I think in 1915 he was making like $3,000 a week. So I just think that's an extraordinary story, right? And then the song that you hear in the beginning with Becca and at the finale is a song called De La. And De La is by a South African artist named Johnny Clegg. And Johnny Clegg was one of those artists. He was kind of like what we would call a protest singer. He was very anti-apartheid. And his music was used, like he wrote songs for Nelson Mandela, and he formed the first interracial band in South Africa when it was illegal to do so. The word De La actually means I'm happy and content. And to me, I think that means as artists, in this whatever art forms we practice, that's where we feel our most authentic and our happiest, right? Did that answer your question? Great, okay. Next up in the back. Right.
All right. I was just wondering if you have like an aha moment that you wanted to share about like what made you realize that you wanted to do this and like this is the way you wanted to express yourself.
That's a wonderful question. So he said, did you have an aha moment when you said like this was it? Thank you, Glow Tape. It's a great crew here, right? Yes.
So I started tap dancing I started dancing late. I went to school, I went to university, I moved to Boston, and I started taking like basic ballet and jazz and stuff there. I moved to California, and years later, I had friends who dragged me into a tap class because I did not want to go. Because a lot of the tap I had seen was not Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire. I mean, I saw that in the movies, but a lot of stuff that I saw in classes was not anything that made me feel anything. So they dragged me to this class, and I was a little bit of a pretentious jazz dancer at the time, because I was like, well, I can't take the beginning class because it interferes with my jazz class. So I just literally walked into an intermediate tap class with little shoes. Remember when you used to have white jazz shoes? I had my little white jazz shoes because I thought, really, how hard can it be? And I was in the back of the class going, and he's like calling out steps and everybody's doing stuff. I was so horrible. I had no idea what I was doing. But all I knew was like, I don't know what this is, but I really like this. I have no idea. And then I went and I bought my little shoes and I started taking, and the rest is history. But the other, so I started taking, I was actually taking from a guy named John Engstrom. Do you ever hear this name? John Engstrom, right? He was the first class I took, 42nd Street. He made a career out of putting 42nd Street all over the world. And then I had friends who were taking, they're like, yeah, but wait till you take your first rhythm class. And I'm like, what does that mean? And I took a class with a woman named Joy Hewitt, who unfortunately is no longer with us, who was one of the most beautiful dancers. She was in California. And she did this exercise across the floor. And for those of you who've tapped before, you guys remember what a flap is? Yeah, like a flap heel, and she did this flap heel exercise across the floor. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life, and I said, that's what I'm gonna do, and voila.
I have so many aha moments. That's the problem. I have one story I actually told in the truck ride on the way up, like my very first tap classes post college dance team, where I had a $40 pair of block tap shoes. And I say $40 because they were really worth $40. And we were in this class and we were doing drills, just paddle and roll, shuffle steps, and I was kind of hating it. And one day we were doing some exercise and I heard clunk, and I was like, oh no, did I break my foot? And turned out the heel completely fell off the shoe. And this was Aaron Tolson. He lives in New Hampshire. He actually teaches at a college up here. He was like, time to get you a real tap shoe. And I was like, okay. And then I was taking a lot of like kind of musical theater tap classes for a while. And I was liking it, but I was like, I don't know, I hadn't found my thing. And then I walked into Lynn Schwab's class, and she's like, don't tap when I tap. Listen, then do. That's like the thing, and I was not used to learning that way. I was used to like learning like the teacher says the steps and you do it, you know, kind of thing. But it got me to think about music in a completely different way. And then when we had to count bars, I was like, oh Jesus, like it's so hard. And then we had to clap on accents. I was like, oh my God. So that began my journey. And since I was taking workshops with Brenda Buffalino as well, I've also danced with Margaret Morrison. I've also taken like workshops with like Michelle Dorrance and, you know, Dermisha, and like my mind has been exploded, and yeah, I can't look back. There's a lot of aha moments, a lot.
Yeah, we all have those moments. Most of you have probably seen Chorus Line, right? Okay, well, my actual story is I'm watching Cisco Pitter Pat, said I can do that. So I was 9 years old, my sister was 4.5, and I was going and watching her take class, and I was like, I like that, I could do that. And of course, growing up in Washington, and I did soccer and baseball, I was a sports guy, and it took me a whole year to convince my parents to let me dance. So I started when I was 10 years old. So that was really, I mean, I knew, and by the time I was 12, I started telling people I was gonna move to New York. And I left home at 20, did my first gig away from home, came back after that gig, packed my bag, moved to New York, and here, this 33 years this summer. So yeah, I'm really grateful for having amazing teachers. I grew up in a studio with really, really wonderful teachers. Mark Schell, who is my first tap teacher and my all-time mentor, gave me all the skills I could ever need moving forward, which is such a gift. And I came to New York and I got to work with wonderful teachers like Charlie Goddard's, and I've done John Engstrom. I did 342nd Streets with him, so we all get to experience this beautiful art form with so many different people in so many different places. So, but mine started with I'm watching Cisco Pitter Pat.
So please forgive me, does anyone know the movie Xanadu? an atrocious movie, right? Just like so cheesy in the 80s. Olivia Newton-John and Gene Kelly. I was obsessed with it as a kid. And I think as soon as I saw it, I was like, I want to be in musicals and I want to do this. And then I saw Cats, like I think the first national tour of Cats. I thought I was a cat for a little bit. I rewrote songs all the time. But I just remember it was profoundly in me and I wanted to do it. And I just told my parents, I want to do this. And that's when I found Cat Company. That's when I found the Barn Playhouse and met Norm Ledger and like all these people that helped me get to where I wanted to go. But I just knew. I think I was born and I just was like, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And I think it was like little fun movies that just encouraged me to be like, do this, be that muse that roller skates.
Question. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, and thanks to each of you. It was so educational, so exciting, fun, and you're all really gifted, and I'm glad you came to our little corner of the world, which isn't too far for Josh, but for the rest of you. But I have a question about Bill Robinson's experience as a black man who was iconic and clearly not just in Manhattan, not just in Harlem. And you read about Ella Fitzgerald and Marian Anderson and Harry Belafonte. And whenever you see him on film, pardon me, he seems like a genuinely relaxed and fulfilled and happy guy, but I'm sure there's a backstory as a black man at the turn of the century, trying to introduce what was then still a relatively experimental or at least relatively new art form, and wonder if you could just speak a little to his experience of the sad and sadly ongoing racism in this country.
That's a great question. Does anybody want to go first, or I can go first? Anybody have?
I mean, outside of what most of the black artists experienced at the time is that there were these big stars and, in these nightclubs and stuff, but they couldn't enter through the front door. They couldn't stay at hotels, the same kind of hotels. They couldn't go to the restaurants. They couldn't use the bathrooms. I do know that Bill Robinson danced a lot with Shirley Temple, and she made more money than he did. Pardon? Yeah, I mean, but they all did. I think the only people that did not, and you know history better than I do, was the Nicholas brothers. Yeah, you know a lot that I don't know. But like the Nicholas brothers were allowed to go in the front because they were kids. And other than that, I don't think any other black artist was allowed to go in the front door, or like when they were touring was allowed to stay in the hotels with the other white artists in the bands and stuff.
Yeah, not even Sammy Davis Jr. Like there's a famous story. They were playing Vegas and Frank Sinatra, and they told Sammy Davis Jr. he had to go, not only go through the kitchen, but they couldn't stay in the hotel. You know what I mean? And Frank Sinatra said, "I'm not playing." I will say something about that experience. Not that I don't want to speak for someone's experience, but I just want to put some facts out there. Something that Bill Robinson dealt with was something in vaudeville. They had something literally called the two-color rule, which meant that a black artist could not perform as a solo act, and the thinking at the time was it takes two people of color to equal like one white person. In spite of that, he became the first black artist to be able to perform a solo. And when you talk about whites, there are people but there's so many people that we don't know, and it's because they didn't get in front of white audiences, right? And there's a lot of reasons for that. Like in Hollywood, budgets for this stuff, like this big, but for black artists this big. There's actually a tap dancer. Everybody knows Fred Astaire, right? When you think of tap dancer, Fred Astaire is the first person. I love Fred Astaire. It's one of the reasons, one of my aha moments was watching Fred Astaire films. But there was another artist who is a contemporary of Fred Astaire named John Bubbles. And when you watch John Bubbles, and John Bubbles did a lot of stuff. I mean, he headlined, he did the Ziegfeld Follies, he was the original Sport and Life and Porgy and Bess, and he had an act called Buck and Bubbles. Buck was the piano player, and John Bubbles is my I'm gonna have a lot of favorite tap dancers, but John Bubbles is my absolute favorite tap dancer because he was the one that started improvising and dropping heels. When you watch John Bubbles dance, you're gonna say, God, that looks a lot like Fred Astaire. And the reason is, Fred Astaire learned from John Bubbles, and John Bubbles choreographed things that he was uncredited for in a lot of Fred Astaire's. And I'm not talking about just tap dance, like the use of the hat and the I mean, there's so many things that you look at John Bubbles and you're like, oh, that looks so familiar. But he was not able to get in front of audiences. There's a tap dancer who we say gave us the time step, which, you know, it's a standard, well, anything can be a time step, but the standardized time step. There was a tap dancer named Rastus Brown, who was a little bit before Bill Robinson. We don't have any pictures of him. We don't know exactly what he did. And the reason is he never was able to perform in front of white audiences because there was a totally different circuit. So we know that he gave us this foundational thing, but we don't know, you know, much else about him. There were some films that Bill Robinson did, and I think that's such a great question because when people say Bill Robinson, if people know who he is, the first thing is they say, oh, the person that danced with Shirley Temple. You know what I mean? And I think that's a strange way to look at it. However, that was the first interracial couple. Like there was a lot of things, like nobody had ever held hands. Like that was the first time an interracial dance couple held hands. But because of that system, he had to play certain types of roles. And he did it, you know? And who can we say like exactly what his experience was, but it certainly was not easy. But he would also, like, in the Depression, if somebody lost their apartment, he would pay all their back rent. He performed, he never said no to a charity event. I mean, just like an amazing human being. He was orphaned at like 5 years old, and he was like shelling peas outside a market in Richmond, Virginia. And then when he was 13, he got on a train and went to DC just by himself, like no family. He started working at a racetrack, and he was like dancing on the street corners, you know? There's actually a film called Cafe Metropolis that had and you can see it on YouTube now, where Bill Robinson, the first time he was gonna play a part that wasn't like a butler or a bellhop or something, and he has this beautiful dance sequence in this nightclub. They cut it from the movie. Yeah, I mean, you can see it now. I mean, everybody thinks of Fred Astaire as the top hat and tails, but Bill Robinson was the first person that did that. You know what I mean? I could talk for like 5 hours. Anybody else? Question? Another question?
Yes, I've listened to you say that there are instructors, that there are songs, and I'm curious to know if there's a musical score for tap dancing, or how do you learn to tap dance? If there's nothing written down.
Well, I think that's part of it, that why everybody, tap dancing is an oral history. I mean, now, you know, there's videos and stuff, and people can go on YouTube and, you know, how do I learn to tap? You know what I mean? You can look at little instructional videos. But, I mean, quite honestly, it was sort of like in the 80s, where, at least as far as rhythm tap, where people like Brenda Buffalino started trying to codify it a little bit and come up with a way to teach it. Her, Leon Collins up in Boston, Peggy Spina in New York. I mean, because up until then, it was very much like you heard one of the, what do you call it, voiceovers, where they were talking about this place in Harlem, the room where everybody would go and they would steal steps, and that's how they learned, and they practiced on street corners and stuff like that. And so it wasn't really taught per se, you know? I mean, it was different maybe for the Cotton Club women or the chorus line or whatever, but people picked stuff up by watching it and just passing it along. And now it's way more codified. Like, now there's classes, but even within that, there's sort of different approaches to the floor, there's different techniques, there's different styles, you know, there's even different names of steps, you know, so there's is this a stomp or is that a stamp? You know, like, so do you If you put your weight on it, it's a stamp. You don't put your weight on it, it's a stomp. But there's a whole bunch of other people who think the exact opposite. Is this a flap or a slap? I don't know. You know what I mean? And so when you're teaching as a teacher, you have to go, this is what it is in my class, or you shift your weight, or this is, you know, because everybody, like not everybody, but a lot of different teachers teach different steps. Even though it's all the same step, we have a lot of different names for the same steps.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, depending on the country you're in too, it just names the steps. But I was gonna say, what's cool about it is, like, I went to Japan, for example, and we couldn't speak the same language, but we were in the tap studio, but we were speaking the same language, and we were able to communicate just by listening and doing. So,
I teach, because I have been lucky enough to teach at Steps for a million years. I get students from all over the world, and you know, they come and they don't speak English, and I don't speak Estonian. So, but there is a way, like rhythm is just a way of communicating, right? Just it starts with the drum, right? I mean, there's just, if you have this, there's just a way to communicate it.
that's in essence what the show is about.
Yeah, and from like you're talking different countries, but even coast to coast. I grew up on the West Coast, and we had some different terminology than what I learned when I came to New York. And tap is at its heart is like Warren was saying, it's a conversation. So you listen, you respond, you get steps, they evolve. You see something you like, and you take it, and then you give it your own little flavor. And so that's the beauty of it. Because so even though yes, that's a shuffle, but there's endless variations and ways you can adapt and change things. So it's never a dead language. It's always growing, it's always evolving, and everybody who does it brings their own little piece of themselves to it.
But as far as class goes, one more thing and all that. But there are basic things. There's shuffles, there's flaps, there's toe heels, there's heel toes, there's pullback. Like there are basic things that people learn, and then it's just like how you put it together. And we all put it together a little differently.
Yeah, and like I'll just say one final thing, and then I want to thank some people. It is a conversation like Lynn's talking about. There's steps that I would call like fundamental steps, and like felt like paddle and roll and things like that you just start doing, then you keep doing. But the conversation bit and it being a language of variations, like I'm just going to tell the story. I come in to rehearse Lynn, and I think I got this like really cool step that I made up, and I go, okay, Lynn, this stick, it was ba ba da do dee ga da dee da, and Lynn goes, oh, za ba ga da, and just immediately did like a cooler version than what I did, and I was like, yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant. Exactly, that's what I said. So I want to. Don't want to keep you too long, but I need to thank some people. So I want to thank my mom and my sister who are here to come all the way from South Carolina. I want to thank my wonderful partner Stephanie. She's so patient because this is what happens. At 12 o'clock at night, I'll call Stephanie. I'll be like, oh my God, Stephanie, this song. Like there's 2 extra bars, but it's only after every 5 phrases. Isn't that crazy? Like, shouldn't it be after every 4? And she's like, yeah, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. I want to thank Evans Hale for allowing us this opportunity. I want to thank everybody, the entire staff at Opera North, Julia and Fen and John and the crew. They're absolutely amazing people. I want to thank you as the audience for coming and participating, and I just want to say that I love when we engage like this, and I've heard so much like wonderful engagement and points of view. That's wonderful for us to hear this. And we have some donors here. We got Catherine Rines. Will you stand there, please? Yeah, she's very amazing. So we are Measuring Time Dance Collective. We thank you, and good night.